Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Well, a few days ago, the president has issued an order to the military. It's been referred to as marching orders because that's the urgency that is attached to the project. And the marching orders concern the president's admonition to the military to wipe out banditry by the end of 2025. Okay, so that's what we'll talk about today. We've heard the Minister of Defense, Abubakar Badaru, broke this particular story earlier in the week, and so here we are now. Okay, as I said, we have a couple of security pros to talk with us about it. In the studios, Dr. Sunny Abdullahi Shinkafi, Policy Analyst, Executive Director, Patriot for Advancement of Peace and Social Development. We'll be joined later on by, Dr. Tony Ofoyeton. So a fine morning to you, Dr. Shinkafi.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. First of all, give me your impressions from the point of view of, because this is what you do. Well, I'm just taking for granted that security is within your field of awareness. What is your impression? Because we've been hearing, for instance, that security, internal security, isn't usually the concern of the army. So when the president now is giving marching orders to the army to achieve this objective, what does that say, sir?
We have faced this situation before. We have experience of this marching order given by Mr. President, by the former administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, and even when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed office, he met with the security chief on 1st June 2023, where he gave the same marching order and directed the security architecture of this country to give it a comprehensive work plan how to flush these armed bandit insurgents and extremists. Yet it has not changed the narratives. So we have this experience before. President giving marching order, and it will not change the narratives. So Mr. President is exercising his power as the highest ranking military command constitutionally, being Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He passed these directives to the Minister of Defense, who now lies with the operational base of the Nigeria Armed Forces. That is the Chief of Defense Staff and the National Security Advisor, how to combat this insecurity across the country. This different in the Northwest, North Central, Northeast, and the Middle Belt has their different diversified security challenges. In the Southwest, South-South, and the Southeast has also different diversified security challenges. So the marching order given by Mr. President to end armed banditry and other forms of criminality, the military has a lot of challenges at their hand. If you take the case of Northwest, we have the case of armed banditry, cattle rustling, kidnapping for ransom, Lakurawa. Then when you take the case of the Northeast, we have the case of Boko Haram, ISWAP, ISIS, and other extremists. Then even including the North Central, like Niger State, in Abuja, even Kogi State, we have a case of banditry, vandalism, all kinds of criminality. Then when you take to the southwest, southwest, we have case of cultism, kidnapping for ransom, and other armed robbery. Then when you take the case of also southeast, IPOF, that is secession. Then you also take the case of south. We have militancy, armed banditry, kidnapping for ransom, pub vandalism, and all kinds of criminality cut across this geopolitical zone. So the service chiefs has a lot of enormous challenges to end this armed banditry, other security challenges at hand. So we have had all this type of marching order, and the Mr. President have vindicated my position in my previous Hausa radio program, where I put a disclaimer notice on the Minister of State for Defense that he has no constitutional right to make any such marching order to the highest military command in Nigeria. It's only Mr. President who has the ultimate powers bestowed him on Nigerian constitution to issue a total war against any segment of the country.
But I hear what you're saying, but the impression that
a lot of money.
We have, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is a presidential order. This is not somebody, you know, doing the act on behalf of the president. Even the minister of defense, Abubakar Badaru, had said that the NSA and all the formations are they're working right round the clock, you know, in order to make sure that this comes into being. But the way you're saying it, as if to say the order came from anywhere lower than the president's office. Do you have any such facts at your disposal?
Can you come out again, please?
Okay. Well, indeed, I will. But in the meantime, I need to say that, well, Dr. Tony Ofoyeton, the Director General, Institute of International Institute of Professional Security, is now in the studio. Sorry about that, Dr. Ofoyeton. Good morning to you, and indeed compliments of the season.
Yes, compliment, and
yes.
Of course, good morning, Nigerians.
Indeed, and you've just been listening to Dr. Sunny Abdullahi Shinkafi, who is you know, policy analyst, and you heard you heard some of it. This we had the impression that this is from the president. It's a presidential order. Marching orders don't come from anybody else. You can't give marching orders.
Anyway, we've had marching orders given severally at different occasions by ministers and other government functionaries. Yes. But I think the CNC had invoked his power as the CNC to give the marching order, as it were. Basically because of this avalanche and torrential security challenges that seems not to be abating. Hopefully we want to believe that with this marching order, because one of the things I have personally advocated is the political will. And I'm sure, Egmo, you would have heard me severally.
We've both been on the political will to do the needful.
Will. So, but what I would say is that there's a difference between marching order and marching order with punitive measure in the event of any defect. So I think that Mr. President should not make those that are at that executory level to understand that, you know, they become accountable. With that, I can assure you that there will be, you know, miraculous results. That is one part of it.
Indeed.
Now, the other part of it is the strategic approach of these agencies. Now, if you ask me, I will tell you that one of the things I would suggest that they should look at is, first of all, downplay the issue of publicity in operations. That is very germane. Identify those that are the key architects of terrorism in the country. And those that needed to be quietly removed, remove them quietly. You don't need the ovation of the people. You don't need the clapping of the people. Those that are the sponsors, those that are actually the main architect. First of all, it's like a root thing. You go straight to the root. You have been given the marching order to remove this thing. So what do? You want to uproot it. And if you want to uproot it, you don't uproot any tree by cutting. If you do that, of course, you and I know that it's an exercise in futility. So if you want to truly uproot terrorism in this country, there are different approaches and different angles towards it. First of all, you have different cell groups. Have you been able to identify all the cell groups across the country? That's one. Secondly, there's always a chain of central command and central affinity. Have you been able to identify that central chain and central affinity? Now, who are now the protagonists of those that are at that level? Now, one by each, without any noise, without the seeking of public ovation, remove those that ought to be removed, arrest those that ought to be arrested, apprehend those that ought to be apprehended. Now, DSS has a lot of work to do. Custom. It is not just to say that we are seizing goods and all those stuff. Like custom and immigration must play their role here now. Because the marching order, it may not succeed if you don't have some of these agencies actively involved. Immigration, of course, has its own role. Those ingress and egress into the country, to what extent have you been able to, you know, how would I put it now, be able to curtail the excesses of the ingress and egress of immigrants, illegal immigrants especially? It's been identified that we have more than 2,000 illegal routes in this country. Now, if that has been identified, to what extent is the immigration working with the custom as it were now, being able to now do what? Seal up all these illegal routes and as much as they can. Well,
as much as they can. No, because oftentimes we've discussed this, and it has been said that the borders of Nigeria simply cannot be policed in that way.
There are different approaches. They know that when it comes to border security, it's not just a man, like a man guarding thing. Technology can be ensured. That is the easiest, the cheapest, and the most effective way to do all these things.
Oh, well, if that is the case, then the military has their work cut out for them, and they are not inexperienced.
The military will do its part, but I can tell you that the military, what is the numerical strength of the military if you don't have the input of other sister agencies?
Okay, because the point that, has been made by Dr. Shinkafi is that the military has its hands full. It has its hands full. Now you're putting this on, this is another order that you are putting on it again. I think Dr. Shinkafi's fear, am I right, Dr. Shinkafi, is that they might not actually be able, well, I don't know, the president must know that they are able, because you don't give an order that cannot be executed.
Yeah.
But the impression is that they might not be able to achieve because their hands are already full. Is that your worry?
No, my great worry, you know, the Minister of Defense, Abakar Badaru, saying that there's an intensive military onslaught against the bandit and they are on the run.
Yes,
they are running
they're
from
on the run
to the first.
Yes.
But I will tell you authoritatively that it is not true, because I come from Shinkafi, and the operational base of Bello Turji is in Shinkafi, in Parque Paris, and Parque Forest. And Turji is still more than 200 people are under captivity from Shinkafi town and its environs. And he has been imposing levies to rural communities. In Birnin Yero, they have paid 23 million ransom and collected their captives 2 days ago. And now again, Bello Turji enforced 30 million to Birnin Yero in Shinkafi community. Maberea military camp was attacked. Badara military camp was attacked. And many military formations are under threat of Turji. And he was kidnapping people.
Yeah.
And he has maintained
sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Shinkafi. I hear what you've just said, but I think it is generally felt that if not for certain restrictions where the army, the military must behave according to certain regulations, what are they referred to? These operators cannot face up to the army. So if any restriction is taken off, as in that is what many people will be reading marching orders to mean, that is they've taken off all restrictions. Because we've been told that the military is not trained for internal security, it's they usually, you don't find them there. It's only with external, insecurity challenges that you see the military bringing out all that they need to be. So there is that issue. There is that issue. Are you not persuaded that the whole matter of the president removing any restrictions and saying, putting a timeline to it, that by the end of the years, gentlemen, I want banditry and all of this criminality to be curbed. A lot of people feel that the Nigerian army can do that. Are you saying it might be a task too tall for them to achieve successfully?
You see, let me take a case study of Zamfara State and the Operation Pansayama. That is Operation Fansayama, that is in the northwest. Mm-hmm. This Operation Fansayama is a combination of Army, Navy, Air Force, and other security agencies. So the internal security control lies within the ambit of the Nigerian police. But with the combination of this Operation Pansayama, which is a combination of the security forces, I think they can do the needful with this combination. So there is some restriction, but since police are being part of such operation, I think they can achieve a very good milestone. So that is my view.
Okay.
So some of the restrictions, the air components, this where the bandits are hiding out in their camp, the air component can make such attacks. But the only problem we have, hit and run approach. Sometimes the military will engage the bandit on the serious military onslaught. But after some days, there will be nowhere to be found. Okay. And then now the bandit will now launch a revenge on the local communities. Turji camp was attacked. His son was killed. His storage facility was burned up by the military. Okay. Now Turji is imposing levies and taxes to the rural community. Issue ultimatum to the people of Maberea, Katuru, and other, even in Pake, Kuria,
okay, Dr. Shinkafi. Okay, sir. Dr. Shinkafi, thanks for the explanation. Dr. Foyeton, what would you say about that? Because I think Dr. Shinkafi is sort of giving the impression that one should be optimistic cautiously in this matter. I think that's the most important thing that Dr. Shinkafi is putting out. How say you, sir, in regards to the doability of this? Because a lot of people have been encouraged. You and I have spoken here, so many times about the lack of political will. It's one thing to mouth it, but you don't enable them. Now, it would seem that this is different. I don't know why I get that impression, but this one where they are saying that I'm putting a timeline to it. I'm going to check you guys out by the end of 2025, and I hope you would have succeeded. What are your thoughts?
You know what the doctor was saying is not fundamentally different from what I said the other time. You see, the military will keep having this recurring challenge if you don't uproot the problem. Now, the head of the bandit that his son was killed, his house was vandalized, destroyed, burned down, and the like. But that head, you see, that's why I said, first, approach it intelligently rather than from the brute force.
Okay, so this is to the military right now. This comment is to the military.
Yes. You see, first of all, these foot soldiers are not too fundamental. Why they are not too fundamental is because the leadership can always raise foot soldiers anytime once the leadership and the structure are on ground. So why don't you go right to the leadership and the structure? For me, that should be the approach, because the approach as it is right for some time has been this approach of there's the cry of terrorism in a particular locality, go there, dismantle them, dissipate them, let them scatter and all those stuff. Wherever they are, they regather again, regroup again. Yeah. Like he said, there will be a retaliatory thing. So why don't you quietly, without making a noise, identify those who are the chief protagonists, who are the heads and the like, and deal with that. Once you have dealt with that, even the Bible says when you strike the shepherd, the sheep will scatter. Now the issue of the sheep should not be the main target of this marching order. To me, should be first of all, identify those who are the main architects, either in finance, in operation, in logistics and the like, those who are actually the foundational, and that is why they need to work with the DSS, because that is the headquarters of, intelligence in this country. I agree that they all have their intelligence departments in the army, in the naval, in the air force, in the police. But when you talk about compound, omnibus intelligence in this country, and talking about it professionally, they need to work symbiotically with the DSS. With that, they will be able to identify names. They'll be able to identify even the movements, and they need to also apply technology. Because if you identify these people, they are sharp enough. They don't use our Android phone. They don't use our Android phone, and they're always very mobile. They don't stay in one place. But there are different ways that you can also get them.
And I'm sure
they can never be too careful.
I'm sure they will know all of this.
So for me, I think that the best approach, and I will still say that, is that, look, if you don't want a reoccurring thing, you go there, you make it peaceful temporarily. And they come back again, then go straight to the roots, to the foundation itself. And even at international level too. Who are those that are participants criminis at international level? Irrespective of whose or is go. You remember our former chief of Army Staff, Buratai, openly came and said, look, some of these international organizations, some of these international countries are what? Agent provocateurs. So what do you do at that point in time? Identify them, blacklist them, tell them to their faces that, look, if you don't stop this, we'll get you out of this country. Now, if you don't do that, even when you kill the leaders or you maim the leaders or incapacitate the leaders, they will still raise another leader, because finance actually brings out greed in man. So if somebody is having 10,000 naira and you are ready to give him $10,000 to raise up another insurrection group or raise up another terrorist group, that is what you keep having. So for you to succeed in that, then you now have to look at the external factors, the external, feeding of terrorism in this country, those that are fanning the of terrorism in this country at local and at international level. Balance it up, even in the political class. Those that are sympathizers in whatever name, whether they call it religious leader or they call it political leader, anybody that is coming out in public domain to come and defend terrorism, terrorists, and terrorist activity in this country, DSS should arrest them. Put them in the gallows.
Thank you. Dr. Shinkafi, let me bring to you a comment that Dr. Ofoyeto made at the beginning. He wondered the need for the publicity, by which I mean here we are talking about it after the order has been issued. We don't know when the order was issued, but we did hear from the Minister of Defense, Abubakar Badaru, that the order to proceed thus has been issued and that they are taking it seriously. All agencies are involved, the National Security Advisor and other security chiefs, everyone is involved. Now, Tony was questioning what was the need for that publicity. Yet, we say that we need to know, we the people, as learning about democracy, what our leaders are doing. What do you think about that particular aspect of it? Could the order have been given silently and it would therefore be legal and they just go about their business and then they come and present results to us? Dr. Shinkafi, did you hear me? Dr. Shinkafi, okay. I understand that there's a little issue. Dr. Shinkafi will be joining us. To go back to this point, because I wondered at it and I wanted to give him a chance to see what he thought about this whole issue about. Look, once the president has removed, and it is only the president who can do it, Dr. Shinkafi, did you hear my question? Did you hear my comment,
yeah,
Dr. Shinkafi?
The order was given by Mr. President 2 days ago before he departed to Paris. But in this type of operation, I think it is that we have experienced several marching orders given by Mr. President.
No, that's not the point I'm making, sir. Sorry, I apologize for interrupting you. The point I'm asking you about is the fact that we know that an order like this has been given and certain action is expected. Dr. Fayetton had said that how necessary is that and how helpful is it? Why, I think Dr. Fayetton has suggested at the time that you could just go about the business and when the results, you can then come and explain them.
Sometimes this is just a political gimmick to satisfy some political objectives. You see, this type of marching order doesn't need to go public. The president, as a higher commanding military officer, as a commander-in-chief armed forces of the People of Nigeria, can give orders silently or secretly to execute this war command. So sometimes
without telling the public about it.
Setting,
without telling the public about it.
Without telling the public about it, yes, because some of the ministers are using it for political objectives. Like the case of Zamfara State, there is no way you can achieve this fight against armed banditry without working hand in hand with the state governor. And the state governor has some political differences with the Minister of State for Defense. So there should be a secret or silent marching order given to these armed forces. You understand? So the Minister of Defense should liaise with the office of the Minister of Chief of Defense Staff, who is the operational head of Army, Navy, and Air Force, and the Office of National Security at the Baza, including the Nigerian Police Force, how to combat this security situation in Nigeria.
Okay.
If you look at the policy document, which Mr. President unveiled, the 80 pages policy document, is one of the top manifesto of the Renewed Hope agenda of Mr. President. So he promised Nigerians that he's going to make Nigeria free of any danger of kidnapping, militancy, Boko Haram, and all that sort of criminality. Yet it has not changed the narrative for the past 20 months of inception of this administration.
Okay, so well, let's hold it there, sir. Let's hold it there. I beg your pardon, sir. Let's hold it there for the moment. We need to go on a quick break. We'll be right back and we'll continue this conversation. Thank you very much, Dr. Shinkafi. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Okay, thank you very much for staying with us. And our guests are Dr. Tony Ofoyeton and Dr. Sani Abdullahi Shinkafi. We're looking at the president's order to, go. Marching orders, go, sort out, end insecurity, end banditry. It's not the first time we've heard it, and neither is President Tinubu the first president that we are quoting in terms of go ahead. In the past, there used to be some confusion about who is a terrorist and who is a common bandit, if there's any such thing as a common bandit. And but we got to the stage, I think in President Buhari's time, when okay, it sort of escalated from the bandits, well, I don't know if it was escalation, but it was no more terrorism. Now we're called bandits. So let's go ahead and get them. So I wanted to ask Tony that, going back to the point that both of you have made, this is not the first time we're hearing that go after them. But is it different this time? Do you think it is different this time? Because this, I don't know that before we had, what is referred to as marching orders publicly given. And so the onus is now on the army. Say, fine, we were saying that you guys are too rough, you can't handle domestic issues, so please don't kill our civilians for us. But this time, there's no such thing. Go, anybody that is messing with this country, let us know about it. Is it as simple as that? Or again, is it going to be political?
Well, it's not as simple as that. There are a lot of things that are attached to marching order. But, you know, you asked a question the other time, whether we are hopeful. Personally, as a person, I will tell you that I'm an optimistic professional, and I'm hopeful. Now, one of the reasons is because...
hopeful that the president's order can be achieved.
Yes. Because, you know, the little I've seen about Mr. President, without prejudice, whatever political affiliations and all those stuff like that, is a more liberal person, and is somebody that is actually looking forward to achieving results. And we have seen it play out. Yes, we've had a lot of challenges in the country, and you see a man that is always talking to make sure that, look, I'm going to assure you that things are going to work out at the end of the day, even if some had not worked out and all those stuff like that. Now, this marching order to me is going to produce a better result because, one, all eyes are now on Mr. President. And don't forget that he is a president that is answerable to no other president, no godfather. So he can fire you at any time, and you don't have anybody other than God to run to. So if he has given you the marching order to say, achieve, you don't need to be told what will happen. He has this presidential capacity to take the hardest decision you can think of without thinking twice. I think that is one good thing that works for him. If he is able to use it very well, and is able to use it to the advantage of the country, because this is the godfather of godfathers. I'm sorry to use that phrase.
Yeah, but that is what has been done now.
Yes, that is why I'm saying that we may have more hopeful. Yes, we are more hopeful that we may have a better result. Because if you are asked to go or to step down, you don't have anybody to run to go and tell Mr. President to retain your job. So you now have to walk, as it were. But having said so, I also think that, you know, it is high time that religion is attacked frantically in the fight against terrorism in this country. No matter what you tell me, whether you say religion is sensitive, it's not sensitive, and the like. Look, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, the Kuwait, and the like, they are Muslim countries. But why don't we have the volume of terrorism and this unrest we have in these places? Because they've been able to identify the difference between religion and governance. So we must draw that line of demarcation. Those who are using religion as a catalyst for this type of crime and criminality, I think the government should come hard. You see, when you talk about terrorists being in a community, on what ground do they conveniently stay in that community? On the ground of religion. When you talk about terrorists recruiting people from a particular community, on what ground and what basis? On the basis of religion. Now, even though those people that are coming in may not really understand the true intent and purpose, but the fact remains that this happens to be the ingredient through which these terrorists are now exploiting. So the government should come all out.
Okay.
Now, why are northern leaders also not being sincere and true to themselves? We are talking of terrorism, and the highest volume of killing has been in the north. How many governors in the north have come all out to, you know, tackle terrorism to the very foundation of it? What do we play? The ostrich. Okay. It's as simple as that. Okay. And once the governors keep playing the ostrich, Uncle Yori, we will not have headway.
Dr. Shinkafi, what would you add to that? That our leaders sometimes play the ostrich. In other words, I think when people want to dignify such behavior, they refer to it as being political. Especially, Tony made a case that, look, for those who are looking at certain things that, quite frankly, are inappropriate, such as religion, for example, a criminal is a criminal. Whether it's a Christian one, whether it's a Muslim one, a criminal is a criminal. How much of this do you see from your end? That is religion interfering.
Yeah, on the issue of religion have explicitly, in accordance with the teachings, tradition, and the custom of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has clearly, even in the Quranic verse, has clearly defined terrorism. So anybody killing an innocent life is not prescribed as a Muslim. So anybody killing people unjustly is classified as a terrorist and ungodly. So those who are hiding on religion, there was no any basis of the Quran or in the Hadith where it was prescribed people should be killed unjustly. So a criminal is defined as a criminal in the common law, also in the Islamic law.
But you know that beyond, I beg your pardon, sir, I beg your pardon, but you know that beyond all of that, these terrorists also profess Islam as their religion. You've heard it. But one moment, sir. Let me come back to you because a caller has come in. So I'm going to come straight back to you since I interrupted you. Mazi Okorafo, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. The marching order the president gave is very, very timing. Timing in the sense that this is the beginning of the year. Because the military, by air or by land or by sea, and all these things. Reason. Because of these criminals, they are creating a lot of problems for us. In the sense that where Nigeria is supposed to move, land farmers are supposed to have. People cannot go to their farm because of this criminality. So the marching order is coming at the rightful time. Honestly speaking, the military should try as much as possible. Whether the aircraft are not there, they should service it within 1 week. And the boys have already trained, and the people they have recruited, they should do that and train them to do the needful.
Okay.
But by the time they do all these things and clear the bush, clear the bush, people can go back and farm. Now, do you know that there are some schools in some of those localities, it's not operating. And we are talking about the eradication of the literacy. How will you eradicate the literacy? Where the children cannot go to the school. Honestly speaking, I'm just dictating the military authority.
All right.
It's a matter of urgency. Actually, within this month, within this, between now and the 28th of October, they should try as much as possible clear the bush for people to go, because very soon now, rainy season will come. People will talk about going to farm.
All right. Thank you very much, Mazi Okorafo. Appreciate you. Thank you very much for calling in. So let me return to you, Dr. Shinkafi, since I interrupted you, and you're speaking about people coming in under, the canopy of Islam, falsely professing themselves to be Muslims. So they mix with the people. They mix with the people because the people say, well.
Yes, that is what. You see, like Boko Haram, Lakurawa, and ISWAP have some religious ideology they are promoting, but banditry is a criminal enterprise which has a lot of value chain, and many people are involved. So unscrupulous, even security personnel are involved, selling arms and ammunition to armed bandits. They were arrested in Zamfara State. Some drug suppliers, food vendors, filling station dealers. And because of the porosity of the border, of the ongoing space, Zamfara State share boundary with Niger Republic, Sokoto share boundary with Niger Republic, Kebbi share boundary with Niger Republic and the Benin Republic. So there is a proliferation of smaller and lighter arms through the land border. Some traditional rulers are aiding and abating this armed banditry and other criminality.
So that's the point. Exactly.
So because of the porosity of the border, it is easier to smuggle all these kinds of arms and ammunition. So the issue of religion is when you are talking of Lakurawa, ISWAP, Boko Haram, they have an ideology they are promoting. But a criminal is a criminal. A armed bandit is a terrorist, is also a criminal enterprise.
Indeed. Okay. Indeed.
Yes.
Okay, let me come back to you. Indeed. So
you see, the marching order given by Mr. President,
yes, it
can only be practical and effective if the Mr. President will summon an emergency meeting of National Defense Council, where the Inspector General of Police other security chiefs will be there to discuss these things.
All right. I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you.
Police.
Okay. Well, yeah, given to the, well, that last sentence, it was given to the military, not to the police. Well, that's because the police cannot handle
Not to the police, not to the DSS, not to the immigration,
yes.
not to the customs.
That's because the police has been overwhelmed with this matter, Tony. But I want you to speak a bit about this whole, he also mentioned it, that you have some traditional rulers that are actually cooperating with these bandits, whether they will say they don't know or they know, but that is a problem. I don't know.
Now, Egbon, you see, first of all, let me say very quickly that with due respect to the doctor, you know, whether Boko Haram, Lakurawa, as it were, or the Ansarus, then as it were, you know, once an organization is a terrorist organization, they are criminals. But
they are tolerated in Nigeria, unfortunately, especially in relation to the trouble we are seeing in the north.
Nomenclature. And in actual fact, even the issue of banditry has even been removed. They are addressed as criminal, as terrorists, as it were now. So whether they come in the name of any religion or ideology, any ideology that seeks to take a fellow human blood, I'm happy that the doctor said something, that Islam does not tolerate the killing of anybody. So anybody that is coming, or group of people coming with any ideology that has to do with killing, is satanic.
Well, they certainly do intend to kill, otherwise
now, for those traditional rulers that are participants criminals, there are two ways to it. There are those that are greedy, intentional traditional rulers. There are those that are coerced into it because they don't have defense. It's either you comply or you are dead. Why? Because they see themselves in ungoverned spaces. And don't forget that in the north, the level of ungoverned spaces in the north, they are higher and bigger than the level of governed spaces in the north. And that is why you see terrorism striving. Niger State, for example, is an equivalent of the whole of Southwest. So if you look at it in terms of landmass, so if you look at it, to what extent where's the presence of federal government in Niger State? Yeah. Now, if you look at the north, we talk about, look at the landmass. Now, if you have a traditional ruler that is sandwiched in that forest, in that desert, you and I understand what he will do. I mean, it's understandable. So that means that the government itself has the sole responsibility to ensure confidence in those traditional rulers. It is when you have succeeded in instilling confidence in them that come reconcile, we are with you. Then those that are now greedy, you are able to isolate them. Then you cannot deal with those that are greedy accordingly.
Okay.
But as we speak now, Uncle Yori, how do you identify those that are greedy and those that are saving their lives and the lives of their families?
Let me ask Dr. Shinkafi, maybe you can be of assistance there. If you are following the narrative, you know, what can be done in that regard? Because you've got to go for these people. Well, when I say go for them, not in terms of hounding them, but you've got to have them on side. These traditional rulers, you have to be perfectly sure that these are leaders that are on side, not going to become agents and informing these terrorists of what the plans are. What can you contribute to that?
Yeah, because of the ungoverned space and the lack of the presence of the security personnel in some of these ungoverned spaces, that is what gives birth to the nefarious activities of these traditional rulers. And most of these traditional rulers are under-motivated by the various state governments. And you know, clearly some of their roles are not clearly defined in Nigerian constitution. So sometimes the traditional rulers misbehave, and some of them are criminally minded individuals, and they are morally corrupt. So some of them have been aiding and abetting. It's very unfortunate. One Magajin Gurbim Ore, connived with an armed bandit to kidnap the family of a former commissioner in Zamfara State, where some ransom were paid, 10 million was paid ransom to the bandit leaders, and the money were shared with that traditional ruler. And he was given 700,000 out of the 10 million that I paid as a ransom. And the traditional ruler, Magajin Gurbi, was only removed. And he was not sentenced to imprisonment. He was just roaming about now. And now migrated to Katsina State in one of the border towns. So these are some of the problem.
I can see. One moment, please. I beg your pardon. I have someone on the line. So, sorry, sir. Shola in Ikorodu. Good morning to you, sir, and thank you for holding on.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, good morning to the gentleman, the great gentleman in the studio.
Dr. Foyeton.
Please, I want to make something clear this morning. Respect, due respect to Dr. Shinkafi, your guest from the other end.
He's our guest in our Abuja studio.
Yeah, in the Abuja studio. I think I disagree with some of the points he's raising. Honestly. You see, I'm a Yoruba man. I was born in the north. I grew up in the north. Your guest in the studio raised a very valid point. You see, if religious sentiment is not involved in all this terrorism we are having in the north, terrorism in the north would have been a thing of the past. I am telling you the truth. Terrorism would have been a thing of the past if religious sentiment is not involved. Don't be surprised, Uncle Yori, that this Truji or whatever his name is, may still be going back to his hometown to sleep, and people will not mention it. They will not say it because of religious sentiment. If they can remove the ideology of religious sentiment in the issue of banditry, Boko Haram, ISIS in the northern part of this country, I'm telling you, terrorism would be a thing of forgotten.
All right, then. Well, thank you very much, Shola. Appreciate your calling in. So that's that then. But the only thing that I'm a bit happy with is that Tony, in the past, because we've been talking about this for years, you know, has been in agreement when we talk about all these, you know, what do we call it? All these, marching orders. We've heard it. But we always had the impression that they weren't saying all that needed to be said. But somehow that feeling has been assuaged a bit. I don't know exactly why, but feel that it's different with this particular instance of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Yeah, I'm optimistic, I'm very, very optimistic that things will get better in terms of the security landscape in the country.
We'll just keep let's keep our fingers crossed on that and be hopeful. So thank you very much, Dr. Sani Abdullahi Shinkafi, policy analyst, ED Patriot for Advancement of Peace and Social Development. And thanks to Dr. Tony Ofoyeton in our Lagos studio here at DG International Institute of Professional Security. Thank you both gentlemen for airing your views on this particular subject matter.
Thank you very much.
Indeed, our pleasure. And so that's our program today. Yes, thank you. That's our program today. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.